Okay, so we're recording the class. Good afternoon, everyone. This is me again, Dr. Sameh, and this is A230A, and we're doing the right. This is our second class on when I say the romantics, late century and early. Before I proceed, I posted the marks of the MTA on SIS. I hope you have seen them. I'm hopeful that you are. And I can give you up to 5 minutes if you guys have questions relevant. So do you have any questions about the MTA mark? Okay, Shaden, yeah.
Yes, doctor. Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I just wanted to ask how I got such a low mark because this is a first for me to be almost below 20. And I just want to know what was maybe my mistakes or common mistakes that led for me to lose 10 grades because that's a first for me. And I made sure that I was thorough and answered the question precisely, not just a whole summary of the story. Such.
Did you say that you gave us a summary of the story?
No, I didn't give a summary. I was very precise in the answer. Maybe I know I made one mistake about Buzola, but I mean the whole essay was. I thought it was not excellent, but not 10 marks. Bad.
Let me see. I think I have the papers with me. I can go through them. That wouldn't be a waste of time, no problem. You guys are you are 1303, right?
Yes.
Okay, just give me a minute. Okay. So these are your papers. Okay. What's your name? Shaden, right?
Yes.
Shaden. Scored 19.5, right? 19 and a half.
Yes. Doctor, please don't air out my mistakes, just an overview of.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I mean, the short answers, out of 7.5 each or 7.5, the first one you got three because you're talking about Bussola in very generic terms when you say that he is unagreeable and uh, unimpressed, whatever that means. So, idiotic behavior. So, these are not situations that you're referring to. These are not examples, right? Remember what I said about short answers? You expound on the concept, you give details, you give the context itself, and then you provide examples, and you haven't done any of that. And I gave you, for example, in the first three out of seven, 7.5, and then the dumb show, you got four. Yeah, no examples in the second question about the dumb show. Again,
The
you
dump
say that
show,
as
I yes, I was mistaken about it being Buzola. After revising, it was about the Duchess, not Buzola.
yeah, but
When
yeah, and even yeah, and if it's about this or that, you were not elaborate enough. You didn't even give details, and I gave you four out of seven and a half.
details for the example.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, you should have given the. I mean, you should have situated it in the Duchess of Malfi. You tell us where it was and what happened and what it did to the rest of the play, the amount of
Oh,
you
I thought
know
I was just defining the dumb
No,
show. It was
remember
about
when
dumb show,
I
not the
gave
whole play.
I gave you remember I gave a revision class. I remember very vividly, and I told you that I'm expecting half a page in each question, which you didn't do.
I did.
So, no, I don't see half a page in any of the two questions. I have the questions in front of me.
Yeah, it's so
Mm.
the two questions
This is blank.
filling a page.
Oh, and I don't judge based on how big or small the
Exactly.
space
So,
is, but I'm telling you what I also said.
okay,
Okay, if it's a perfect answer, it should have occupied that space. This is what
okay,
I'm trying to say. And
okay.
then you have your third question, and I gave you 12.5 out of 15, which is a high mark, and I'll tell you why I didn't give you 15, for example. What did I write to you? Yeah, you mentioned the two of them, Bradley and IA leaves, but perhaps I don't know. I mean, you you spoke more about IA leaves than about Bradley. Yeah, that's a good answer. That's why I mean you got almost 13 out of 15, and obviously this is not bad. Yeah, Shady.
So it was it
It
for the spelling or grammar or
No, it's the whole idea. Your English is good. We agreed on that. We never doubted that. Remember? So your problem is not with the long essay, Jadon. Your problem was with the short answers because each one of them is out of 7.5.
yes, I feel like
If
10 grades is a lot to
Yeah, yeah,
lose.
yeah. If you score three and if you score four, this is seven out of 15. Half the mark is lost. And for
Yes,
obvious
that's a
reasons we
lot.
spoke about, right?
What I got from you is I didn't have examples.
You didn't give enough examples, and your answer in the part about uh, Bussola was circular. You didn't add any new information. and it was all adjective that you're using, idiotic, unimpressed. So these are not, I mean, actions that he did. These are not examples that you're giving. So it was, yani some kind of impressionistic answer. I mean, what you
Okay.
heard with us, what we discussed but you didn't expand on the ideas.
I guess my shock was the 10 grades. I thought maybe if I
Overall,
lacked, it would be
oh,
half, 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 not 10 grades. That's
um,
what I was like. I
I
don't
would,
know what the grading was based on or how much for examples like that. Like, how is it specified? But that was all I wanted to know because I was honestly very shocked of my grade. That's
yeah,
the
you're
lowest
good. I
I've got.
mean, you know how I think of you and how good you are. I mean, the level of engagement is very high when we talk and when you discuss things. But perhaps you need to work on that. Perhaps you need to again to be more on the objective side of things. And I mean, what I got was, kind of impressionistic things. I mean, they are not rooted in perhaps, and I don't know whether you have done that or not. You didn't read enough, perhaps. You focused on what you already knew about the characters and what was happening. I don't know. I may
My
be mistaken.
impression.
Yes, but it's
But I
again
thought
the
that
short.
was the basis of the exam is to provide one the whole picture of the character and then a little bit a sprinkle of my opinion of them just to
Man,
show character in the paper.
so what we have when the case of Othello, because we're taking it as an example of what you did in the other, was that we had impressions about the characters without anything backing it from the play. If I say that he is idiotic or I'm unimpressed, where is this idea that he is? Remember, it's about the contented kind of character. You didn't
Yes.
perhaps say that this is part of the tradition or the traditions of the revenge tragedy. It has always been there.
Oh, okay. I didn't
Uh,
refer back to.
right, and then with the fact that why he is malcontented, because he's not happy with what happens around in court, in the court, the corruption, and then you refer to how complex his character is. In spite of the fact that he lashes out against the corruption, he is ready to be engaged in it himself.
Mm,
Right? Did you say any of
hmm.
that?
Not that he was ready to engage in it, no, but he was against the corruption and he was
Mm,
very unimpressed with
mm,
what's going on around him from other
mm.
characters.
We still have a chance to do better in the second quiz. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt, which is out of 10, right? And we still have the final
Hmm.
exam, which is out of 50.
Yes.
You still have a chance to
Get a
improve the
B,
mark, inshallah.
a B,
Excuse me?
a B. Do I have a chance to get a B?
Perhaps an A. I don't
No, I don't
know.
think so. And the A is gone.
Uh,
That's
let,
why,
let's let's do what we're supposed to do and hope for the best. I believe in you. You are
inshallah.
such a nice, diligent, hardworking
Yes.
individual. I like you, yeah, Shadin, and
Thank
you
you.
know that.
Thank you, doctor.
Yeah,
Thank you for
yeah,
the for
yeah,
your time. Thank
yeah.
you.
Anybody else having doubts or concerns about the marks?
Assalamu alaikum, Doctor.
Alaikum salam.
Can you please check mine also?
What's your name? Noura what?
No. Nur al Shahrani.
Noura Shah. Okay. Are you a three? I mean, 1303?
Yes, it's supposed to be tomorrow's lecture.
No, you'll have to wait till tomorrow, yeah, Noura. لأنه I only have the scripts of 1303.
Okay, thank you, Doctor. I'll do
Wow.
that.
Okay. Anybody else? You know? Okay. So I'll.
Yes, Professor. I'm
Yes.
Aya.
Yeah.
Can you?
Yes.
I want to
Yeah.
know my mistakes, if that's okay.
That's okay. Are you 1303, Aya?
Yes.
No. Mm, Yeah, Aya. Aya what?
Aya Shahrur.
So it's 5.5 out of 7.5, 6, you have 6 out of 7.5, you have 13 out of 15. And your total is 24.5.
Wait, 15 out of 15 on the essay?
The essay is 13 out of 15.
Oh, okay. I thought you said 15. I'm sorry. Can I just know what I did that was wrong? Because
Yes.
I don't want to repeat the same mistakes.
Okay. طيب, let me just يعني perhaps correct something. If you're English major and if you're writing essays, obviously it's not about you doing something wrong unless your English is not good. Obviously your English is excellent, mashallah. It's about depth. It's about relevance. Okay. It's about giving relevant examples, and if it's about using academic language. So we're going to exclude the point that your English is not good, because this is out of the question, mashallah. Okay, and let's
Thank you
talk
very
about
much.
depth. Let's talk about clarity. Let's talk about relevance, and let's talk about examples. Again, so the first question is 5 out of 5, and the second is 6. So 5 out of 5 out of 7 point, 5 point, I'm sorry, 5.5 or 5.5, I'm sorry, out of 7 point and a half, and then 6 out of, let me see, for example, why I give you 5.5 out of 7.5. What did I write to you? Again, it's you're telling us the story in the first question. It's remember what the first question was about? It was about the handkerchief and how it propelled the action forward. What
Yes.
you were kind of engaged in some kind of story retelling about Iago, the antagonist, the relationship, Desdemona. So how, I mean, the question is obviously about how this moment in time, I mean, referring to the handkerchief and what happened and the misplacement of it, how it complicated things. Desdemona had to hide the fact that it fell. She didn't tell her husband, and that complicated things because Iago is going to play on that. Did you do any of that? Did you say any of that, yeah? Do you still remember that you said something like that? I'm not saying that you need to kind of tell me what I already know, but at least you need to kind of talk about it in with a deeper level of that show your understanding and everything. Do you think that you did that? Remember that you took 5.5, not 2, not 1, right?
Yes, I remember part of my answer, but I don't remember it completely, honestly.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Mm. And the second one was about the dumb shoe, and I gave you 6 out of 7.5. And again, you didn't refer to the fact that the dumb shoe is also part of the traditions of the revenge tragedy. And it's also what I told Shaden about its place in the play, and how it was used as some kind of um, it kind of replicates what happens in the main play, and it reinforces the ideas, and also the significance of having people acting and not talking. I mean, remember what I said, that the writer is trying to create this kind of emotional distance between between us as readers or as members of the audience and the characters. He doesn't want us to get involved in the action by feeling very empathetic and very sympathetic towards them. He's trying to create this kind of this. Did you talk about that?
No, I don't think so.
And I gave you 6 out of 7.5. I
Thank
didn't give
you.
you 2 or 3 or 4, right?
Yes, I know.
Mm,
No, I'm very satisfied with my grade. Honestly, thank you
mm,
very much. I'm
mm,
just
mm.
like I'm worried I might not be able to get an A because so
You
far,
you deserve better than that. I'm saying that yani, from yani, what I know about you, what you say in class, you can be given more than that. I mean, just work on those very small things, and the idea of relevance, the idea of giving examples, the idea of not leaving yourself to yourself, because it sometimes it ends up being impressionistic. No, you need to invest some more time reading your notes, perhaps listening to what we say, visiting the textbook. So impressions are good because they are part of your views on things, but obviously they are not everything. So you're doing an excellent job, and I'm expecting yani, better than that, inshallah, in
thank you
the
very much,
second
Professor.
quiz and also in the final exam. You still have a chance, inshallah, to do way better than that. Yeah, thank you, and I'm so proud of you, of course.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Professor.
حد تاني؟
Doctor,
Yeah.
are you free after the meeting?
نعم.
Are you free after the meeting? I want to explain something to you in private.
طيب
Please.
ماشي. No
Okay,
problem.
thank
Yeah,
you.
no problem. حد anybody else? Or we move on to substance? Okay, طيب يلا let's move on. Let's be positive, and we remember that we still have 60 marks ahead, and they can change a lot. You still have a chance to improve your marks, and I'm ready to help you as much as I can. I just want to make sure that you guys can hear me well, because I had a class earlier, and when I went back to the recording, it was fluctuating, but I don't want this to happen with this class. But if you can hear me well and my voice doesn't come and go, tell me.
Now it's all clear, Doctor.
ممتاز. طيب. I think we're recording the class. Yeah, it is being recorded. Let me share my slides, and we are on our way. So by now we know who the Romantics are, what they do, what they used to do. So how much do you know about the Romantics by now? Any ideas? By the way, I'm collecting as of today. I'm going to collect impressions for the 5 mark scheme. Remember, we have 5 marks for attendance and participation. Make yourself obvious so that you can secure the 5 marks of the attendance and participation. Okay, so we're talking about the Romantics. So when I say the Romantics, well, what do I mean by the Romantics and who they are, what they do, what kind of poetry they used to write and stuff like that. Come to the mic and share this with us. Al Jawhara, go ahead.
The Romantics are the poets who are William Wordsworth and his Blake, and they were the ruling era between the 18th century. They wrote the poetry about the nature and so on.
Nice, very good, excellent. Thank you so much, Al Jawhara. Okay, we also have Nagwa. Go ahead, Nagwa.
Yes, the Romantics are like the poets or the writers who were known and they are known as Romanticism, and it was characterized by like the Romantic writings were characterized that they included usually the inner feelings of the writers. They would usually express themselves, and also they would include elements of nature and their perspective of the world.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you, Nagwa. Thank you so much. Any other thoughts about the Romantics? Okay. Right. What's your assessment if I say, of course, like I always say, we were not born yesterday. We have read poetry. Sometimes we read poetry because we love poetry, or perhaps because we have ears enough. We heard people recite poetry, right? So if I tell you that the Romantics and their poetry is all about simplicity, about themes that are not traditional, what do you think? What do you think of this kind of would you think this is a better kind of poetry, or you think that perhaps traditional kinds of poetry are better? What's your assessment of the whole thing? Remember, we did I wandered lonely as a cloud yesterday, the other day, and it was an example of just who the Romantics are and what kind of subjects and ideas they talk about. So what's your assessment of the whole thing? Do you think that that the Romantics are good news, or perhaps they are too liberal for your taste, because you think that poetry should be written in a certain way? Let's have Al Jawhara, and then we also have other people like Nagwa and Shaden. Yeah, Al Jawhara.
In that time, actually, they were known to be leading the movement of Romanticism, and it was against the tradition at that time. So it wasn't actually, it is something good as writing romantic poetry, but for that time, it wasn't actually accepted, and it's
How
going
about you? And
against.
I'm asking about you, your opinion.
About me,
What do you think of this kind of poetry?
I think it's good. It's wonderful. It's very actually emotional, even.
Nice. Okay. I'll take your word for it. Yeah. Al Jawhara. Thank you. Let's move to Shaden and then Nagwa. Shaden, what do you think?
I think it's a hit or miss with the Romantic poetry.
Whatever that
Sometimes
means.
it means sometimes they are too romantic for my liking. I feel like it's borderline delusion sometimes, and it's unrealistic. They romanticize
Life?
like the hardships of life. Sometimes you don't need to romanticize. Sometimes you need to just soak in your sadness without making it something that is
Are you reading
overdrawn.
them? Let me ask you, are you reading them correctly? Because obviously, when you say that people romanticize things, is perhaps we're talking about nature. We're talking about aspects of life that nobody was visiting before. When we talk about the outside, what is so romanticizing about that? When they talk about the inner recesses of human beings and their feelings, good or bad, sad or otherwise, because it doesn't have to be sad. Remember, in the daffodils, and obviously the poet is talking about his feelings, and
Yes.
his reactions to elements of nature, but he was happy. So what you're saying that they are romanticizing things, and obviously when you say that they are romanticizing, you're trying to say that they put emotions to everything, which is not true. I mean, if there are emotions, they talk about emotion, but they have other aspects of life to talk about, like outside nature. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
But
say them.
I feel like it's irrational at
Mhm.
some point
I mean,
because I
how?
like things to make sense
How?
to me.
Yeah, how many?
Explain the depths.
Yeah, go on. I'm sorry, I'm interrupting.
No,
Go
it's
on.
okay. I'm done. It's
Okay.
just sometimes it lacks depth for me or explanation because I feel like I'm very
Yeah.
uh I lack imagination at some
No,
point.
why are you saying this? MashaAllah.
It's not
You are sometimes remember what you said about yourself, that you are a poet yourself. And then you're not a published poet, it is true, but you sometimes catch yourself writing. Remember what you said, that these were scribbling, and obviously I don't approve of the word scribbling, because what you're doing is obviously bigger than that. So you seem to be harsh on yourself, ya Shayden, which is something that I don't like. You're amazing, you're mashallah, and I'm so proud of you. So have some confidence, please. Okay?
thank you. It's just I like things to be rational and make sense,
Yeah.
feasible.
Yeah, and they make sense, I promise you.
Okay, okay.
And okay. Let's move all the way to Nagwa. Go ahead, Nagwa.
Yes, one aspect of like the romantics, which is the simplicity, can be defined or can be viewed in terms that it enables a lot of people to enjoy the poetry. Because as traditional poems, they are usually long. They contain multiple. They need multiple analysis for people to actually understand what they mean. So the emergence of the romantic poems, it enables those people who do not really get deep into the poems, enable them to experience some of the joy of the poetry that the poets experience,
You,
and they would
you're
like to show the people.
you're trying to say that the simplicity of their poetry secure bigger readership. Yani, so
Yes.
obviously it's simple, not simplistic, right? Because obviously there is a difference. So it's not stupid poetry that we're talking about here. We're talking about poetry that is simple, that is accessible. Remember when we spoke about the fact that they use simple diction, and by diction, of course, we mean words and vocabulary that is simple, that is accessible, that is easy to
Yes, precisely.
understand. Yeah, they stay away from jargon and again, poetic diction and words that are deeply rooted in Greek mythology, and dropping the names of gods and goddesses that nobody knows of or about. They don't have any of that, right? Um, so this is especially so when we talk about first generation romantic poets, especially so with Wordsworth. Perhaps it's going to get a little bit complicated with Coleridge, with his flights of fancy and imagination, and then when you go to Keats and Shelley, where they also use and invoke Greek mythological ideas and from medieval even. So the experience with the romantics so far is good. I mean, we're talking about people who address aspects of nature that we're not too familiar with. We're so used to people or poets holding a mirror to nature, if you like, where the focus is on how to imitate and copy nature, and your real merit and your real achievement and real contribution would be how close you are to nature. And obviously, the nature of the people before the Romantics was the nature of city and gardens, things that are well organized, things that are rational, and rationality, according to people like Voltaire, according to the Romantics later, didn't bring us any good. Of course, they have in the background what happened in the 18th century, and the wars, and life was not as good as Augustan poets used to portray. طيب. We're still with Wordsworth, and we said that Wordsworth is a first generation romantic poet, and he is the poet of nature. And you know what nature is. What we did with him, or for him, was the first poem. And the first poem was "I Wandered Lonely as a Cloud," and we said even the title is very significant, and we started to make this kind of comparison between him as a poet and his sister Dorothy Wordsworth, because it is through her diary and journal that we got to know more about the poem. Remember when we made this kind of comparison, what did we discover about the poem? Do you remember any of that? Remember the title was "I Wandered," or perhaps the first line, the first verse was "I wandered lonely as a cloud." So was he alone? Lonely here, remember I said that lonely here does not mean sad or forlorn. Lonely here means on his own. Was he on his own in his tour that he was doing? Remember what we said? Remember what we discovered from Dorothy's diary or journal? He wasn't alone, obviously. Yeah, Reem, go ahead.
He's enjoying to be with himself more, enjoying to be away from people and society, to be sensual, and to
Yeah.
have to describe nature more.
Yeah. This is part of the perhaps the makeup of the Romantics, the fact that they find enjoyment and find comfort in solitude. Solitude means being on your own, being alone. They love it when they are on their own. But obviously, this wasn't my question. My question is when he went on this tour in nature and he moved around and saw the daffodils and saw the other element, was he alone? Because he said, "I wandered lonely as a cloud." My question again, was he alone,
No,
Jama?
he's not.
No, he wasn't alone,
No.
right? Obviously, he's not lying or something, but this is a feeling that romantic poets feel. They feel that they are alone or on their, or perhaps they wish or hope that they are on their own. But what we discovered through the entry, one of the entries of the journal or the diary of his sister Dorothy, is that he wasn't. This was a shared experience. He was with his sister, and there were also other people involved in this kind of tour in the countryside and in nature. I wandered lonely, and we spoke also about this idea of wandering, moving around aimlessly. Uh, I wandered lonely as a cloud, and of course we spoke about the whole experience when he saw those elements of nature, and then he started to react to them, and then after that he went home and he kind of started to recollect what he has seen, and this recollection turned into a poem. So this is the whole idea. Remember what we said about that definition of poetry according to Wordsworth and Coleridge, the fact that is this overflow of feelings recollected in tranquility. So poetry is this overflow of feelings recollected. And this is exactly what happens. You go out in nature, you see things, and then when you go home and you refrain to yourself, you start to recollect, and poetry comes out. We made those comparisons between the poem by Wordsworth and the journal by his sister, spoke a lot about that, spoke about the fact that poetry, that the poet is a public figure and his poetry is meant to be published. So he has nothing to hide. On the other hand, if we talk about Dorothy, Dorothy is a woman in the early 19th century, where obviously women were not given their due in terms. Women, and if they sometimes even if they have to write, they have to write under a pseudonym. Pseudonym means a pen name, because they wanted readership. So Dorothy was writing a journal, and obviously a journal or a diary is a private thing. Again, we also said that in order to verify what happened on that day and during that time, you will need to go to Dorothy's diary because it's factual, it's based on facts. And it brings things or arrange things in a chronological way, what happened first and then what happened after that and so on. And again, even Wordsworth himself is going to depend on the diary of his sister when he starts to effect changes and make revisions of his poetry. This is something that he could do. Other poets or other romantic poets couldn't edit their work because they didn't live long enough. But he was given the opportunity because of his long life to review his work and change. Remember when we spoke about the poem, sometimes it's the three stanzas, some other times you see different versions with four stanzas. This is revisions that he was effecting. So what we said about the journal was the fact that it is full of everyday detail, information, and observation. And obviously they are given as they took place. But of course, the poem was different. The poem is lyrical, having part of the poet himself and his feelings, and of course it was meant to be published. Again, we stress the fact that the poem is a shared experience. I mean, it is true that Wordsworth didn't present it this way and said that I was lonely or I was on my own, but of course we discovered that he wasn't in his own, and he had people, and if in order to justify that, we need to always remember the psyche of the romantic poet. The romantic poet always have this wish to be alone, to be disconnected, to have his own shell, if you like. So the journal certifies the poem as true and that it actually happened. Again, you would always need the journal in order to read the poem and understand it perhaps more. Again, what comes out very vividly from this kind of comparison between the poem and the journal would be the idea of the solitary poet, the poet who revels, who finds pleasure and enjoyment in being alone. So the figure of the solitary poet. So it is, after all, a collaborative enterprise where obviously you have the poem, and then the poet comes later, after years or years later, in order to be reminded of certain events. Again, two things are very important when it comes to the poem. The idea that what comes when you go and you refrain to yourself and you sit alone, you have flashes from the recollection of what happened. And this is reflected and it goes inside you, and through the place of solitude, whether you are in nature or when you go home, it's through all of this that you come out with this beautiful poetry. Remember what we said about him, or I mean Wordsworth, having all kinds of pleasure in living close to nature. And of course, as a poet, when he goes there and lives by nature and in nature, he starts to create and be creative. So it's you have this alliance between outside nature and the poet's imagination. Um, Again, there is also this idea that, unlike other Romantic poets, Wordsworth subjected his poems to continual acts of revision and reorganization throughout his life. Again, that's why we have, when you have poems of him, you have different versions, and some of them are long and some of them are short because of the so many revisions that he did to his poem. Again, when we talk about Wordsworth, we talk about certain characteristics that are always there with his poetry. Things that you are that you almost find in his poetry, and one of them would be the idea that the poet is solitary. He has those intensive experiences within natural landscapes, and obviously that would result in profound and permanent spiritual benefit to the poet's inner life. Again, what is Wordsworthian about Wordsworth poetry would be the idea that his poetry function as a philosophical and generalizable statement of the value of recollecting natural landscape within urban modernity. There is this focus on the value of interacting with outside nature and then refraining to yourself and then recollecting what you have seen and experienced, and then you turn that into poetry against this backdrop of urban modernity. Again, you would feel that there is this healing relationship between the poet and landscape. It is through nature that you can have nurture, that you can have nature can be some kind of therapeutic. It can provide you with the healing that you need, because of the pure spirituality that comes with it. I mean, it's pure and it's innocent, and there is nothing corrupt about it. So the landscape comes to dramatize the Romantic poet's inner life, and by extension, arguably, everyone's inner life. So again, some of those characteristics which would apply to the Romantics and more so to Wordsworth would be the idea of the poet as being disconnected, alone, self-absorbed. And this is what everybody knows about the Romantics and especially about Wordsworth. And that's what sticks in our popular imagination about every time the name Wordsworth is dropped. Does it mean that we have, if we talk about self absorbedness, the fact that the poet seems to be disconnected, he enjoys being in solitude. Does it mean that the romantic poet does not care much about what happens in real life? He is out of touch with reality. He doesn't feel for the miseries and of others? No, absolutely not. Wordsworth was not uncritical of the social, moral, and political implications. He was wary of that. He always defended himself about this accusation that he is aloof, that he lives like other poets in his ivory tower, out of touch with reality. He says, no, not this kind. I am um, um, absorbed in the issues and the problems of our day. I feel for the poor. I lash out against corruption. I lash out against the bad things that the Industrial Revolution brought to life and everything. And he's giving us an example of such that in his poem, Point Rash Judgment, which was written and published in 1800. Point Rash Judgment. I would like you to think of the title of the poem. Point Rash Judgment. No, this is not the one. Um, uh, let's start with this one, and then we go because this is obviously a sonnet, not that big, and it points to what we have just said about the poet being socially and politically committed, not aloof, not living in an ivory tower far from the madding ground. He is trying to dismiss this accusation, and here is an example. I would like you to read this poem and tell me what you have understood. I'll give you 3 minutes, or perhaps four, because poetry is philosophical and intellectual. Like I said, you don't read it the way you read a newspaper. Obviously, with the newspapers, you don't have to delve deep into there is obviously no deeper meaning when it comes to reading a newspaper. But if you're reading a poem, you have to read between the lines and even beyond the lines. Yalla, go ahead. You guys have 4 minutes. Read it on your own and tell me what it is about. And let's talk about it when you have finished. Yalla, go ahead. Okay. So this is what we call a sonnet. A sonnet is a poem of 14 lines. Okay. So people normally read a poem more than once. If they have a chance, they need to read it out loud so that they don't miss the music. For our present purposes, we're going to only read it once, which you did, obviously. So let's talk about it. The world is too much with us, whatever that means. Now come to the mic and share what you have understood. Can I see hands? I can see only Shaden's hand. Okay, Sarah, go ahead.
After I read it, I remembered something. I don't know exactly what it is. It is a song or novel, but I think it was a lyric, and it said, "You cannot eat money." And I remember that because what I understand it how important the nature is, and how people is ruining it uh, because they put the work and uh, um,
Yeah, you're doing a good job. Go on, go on. I enjoy what you're saying. Yeah, what you're saying is, yeah, to the point. Go on if you have more.
I don't know what I want to say exactly, but the world is changing, and
Do you think it's relevant? If yeah, now let's establish the fact that what you're saying is correct, is accurate. So do you think this is relevant to our post modern times? Are we having the same attitudes towards
yes,
life? Is
yeah.
it material cupidity? Yeah. So it's all materialistic and it's all
Yeah,
materialistic.
because for
Yeah, I don't
example,
want to spoil it. Yeah, go on. I'm sorry, sorry. Go on.
like he said he want to be a pagan or something like that, and um, he
No,
don't
if
like even Christianity because um, all these things doesn't protect nature, like
no, his yeah,
the Greek, like other people like Greek, they um, I don't know what I want to say, but
yeah,
in the recent world doesn't protect nature, and all they think about is work and how they want to make the world better, and don't care about nature at all. So they, um, I don't know, put the sand on a leak or something. Yeah.
yeah, you do. Yeah, yeah. And what you said was, for the most part, accurate and correct. Let's perhaps hear from other people, and before I say something. Yeah, Shaden.
Sorry, I just forgot what I'm about to say. So sorry.
No, that you're doing a good job. Thank you so much, Yasar. Yeah, Shaden, you're raising your
Yes,
hand.
I think that the world is too much with us means the humans consumed or overly consumed nature, and they're overpowering nature. Humans are with their greed are overwhelming nature, and he points to consumerism, materialism, just wanting, and never having enough. What I liked specifically about this is there's a point where there's a question of, can we fix this? Is there a point of return or no? Did we fully destroy nature and disconnect from it completely, or do we have a
Yeah.
chance to get back?
Yeah, how relevant is this to what is happening in our days now?
Completely relevant, and even more relevant, I'm sure, now than what in his time. I feel like it's
Yeah, I'm sure at the time they wouldn't refer, they didn't have a word or an expression for which you aptly
yes,
used, which is consumerism. The fact that
consumerism. Yes,
it's about consumption, right? Yeah, great,
yes,
mashallah. Thank
greed.
you, Shane. Yeah. Human, I refer to it normally as material cupidity. You know, cupid, right? Cupidity is love, right?
Cupid, the angel of
Uh,
love.
yes,
Oh,
but
okay.
it's material. You're in love with material things, material cupidity. Thank you, Shaden, so much. Al Jawhara was raising her hand. Would you like to add to that, Al Jawhara?
Yes, after I read the poem, it shows that the poet actually feels upset about what is going on in the world, and it's also about consuming stuff from the nature, and it's quite harmful since he is connected with nature.
Yeah, that's good. That's very good. Okay. Very beautiful insights, everyone. Thank you so much for them. Yeah, so the world is too much with us. I mean, again, it's about this idea that we're so immersed and so absorbed in material things. We so absorbed in them that we forget entirely about nature, about appreciating and enjoying nature. And of course, he means and the countryside and the mountains, the lakes, and the rivers, pure as they are. And he's saying that it's a sad day that I am seeing that, and to the extent that I would, uh, it would be better for me to be a pagan, which is something that he doesn't want to be or have, than seeing this happening to the world. Again, he would refer to, I told you that they normally utilize elements of mythology, Greek mythology, and so uh, does this make? Is he escaping from something when he writes a poem like this? Is he self-absorbed? Is he solitary and alone? Is he enjoying solitude? Remember what we said about poetry and what people said about the poetry of the Romantics, and they said that they are out of touch with reality, that they are not in tune with reality. They don't feel what other people are feeling. They don't talk about realistic issues. Do you think this poem is confirming those sentiments, negative sentiments about them, or is it saying something about their uh, commitment, social commitment, and other things? What do you think? Al Jawhara, go ahead.
Yes, from this poem actually it doesn't show that he's in solitude. He's actually connecting with the society and feeling everything that is going around him.
Yeah, which means that he's socially committed, that he is politically committed. Even we have poems by him talking about politics. And I remember what we said about his biography, that at one point he was lobbying for a change in England where he would have liked to see a regime change, like what happened with the French Revolution. And this is perhaps one reason why he would go to the countryside and live for the rest of his life, because when the French Revolution failed, the government started to look at people who were supporting this kind of revolution. Again, the world is too much with us is an indication, is a statement against those who say that the Romantics, especially Wordsworth, are not socially committed and they live in their ivory towers, not knowing much about what happens with people and stuff. Um, this is perhaps a very small explanation that I would like you to read. It's a summary, and I would like you to go through it very quickly before we move to some other poems. So I'll give you a couple of minutes. This is perhaps a paraphrase or something. Here, shall we move on? Yeah, let's move on. And then we have this very interesting poem, Point Rash Judgment. And then we're going to make those comparisons between Point Rash Judgment and I Wandered Lowly as a Cloud. So Point Rash Judgment. I don't know whether I have the poem because it's a long one. And I don't want to spoil it for us. All I want you to do is to take the title, Point Rash Judgment, and